It's time to join Montana's very own and your voice for agriculture, Talkin' Ag Lane Nordland, for today's LaneCast.
Everyone, Lane Nordland here. Thanks for joining us for our Livestock Market Edition. We're going to be looking at some local livestock markets and, of course, these record high cattle prices on the cash and futures board for the week ending January 24th, 2025. I tell you what, folks, watching this market is impressive. Of course, a lot of factors impacting why these prices are so high. But before we get into what those cash and futures markets look like, along with our local livestock markets, I do just want to give a big shout out to today's episode sponsor, our friends over in Northeast Montana. There was Sandhill Red Angus. Andrew and Mackenzie Johnson, a great couple up there raising high-quality Red Angus cattle. Well, they have their annual production sale coming up on Tuesday, March 4th, there at Sydney Livestock Market in Sydney, Montana, and they're going to be offering 90 high-quality Red Angus bulls, but I just want to feature today a fantastic set of 75 red bred heifers along with 75 first calf pairs. Now, these bred heifers will weigh anywhere from 1,050 up to 1,100 pounds and will be sorted for one cycle calving periods. Pairs will all have AI calves at their side to be ready for delivery mid-April to the 1st of May. Again, these are some high-quality Red Angus cattle from a great family there in Northeast Montana. Again, the Sandhill Red Angus sale coming up on March 4th, 2025. Check out their Facebook page, Sandhill Red Angus, or sandhillredangus.com for all the details on this year's production sale. And make sure and check out the videos on those fancy red pairs and red bred heifers as well. Well, today, friends, let's look to these record high prices that I previewed here at the start of today's Livestock Market Edition. Like I mentioned, we know inputs are high. We understand that drought has significantly reduced all of our operations, cattle herd sizes out in the countryside. And as I mentioned, for many of us, it's been a tough winter as well. And there's no denying it, though. Packers need cattle, and they are willing to pay for them here. Over the past 3 weeks, we're continuing to set records as those packers continue to buy cattle at an impressive price level. You know, this past week, we saw live cattle markets making history with record-breaking prices across the board. But first, those cash cattle markets, they surged $6 to $8 higher in the north and $5 higher in the south, hitting all-time highs. On the board, February live cattle closed at a jaw-dropping $204.77. That's up $3.67, with April and June contracts also just going past those record level tops. Now, this is truly what we look at when we're trying to talk about price discovery and what is out there. And I tell you what, it's exciting to talk about these prices, but I'm also reflecting on the situation on how we got there as well. Now, as you can see there on the screen, feeder cattle also had a very exciting week on Friday. Those contracts posted very solid gains. March feeders up $2.50. And throw in a pretty bullish cattle on feed report. It only just adds more diesel to the burn pile. Looking at that January cattle on feed report here now, we are seeing that January 1st cattle and calves on feed, they showed that level was 1% below January 1st of 2024, coming in at 11.8 million head. It also showed fewer cattle on feed thanks to those increased marketings and lower placements as well. December placements were low by 3% compared to last year at 1.642 million head. We should consider, though, the ban on Mexican feeder cattle due to the New World screwworm that we've seen in Central America and southern Mexico. Because of that, we have not had any Mexican feeder cattle imports into the United States since November, so that could definitely have an influence on those placement numbers as well. But overall, a bullish report for that cattle on feed report for January 1st. And if you're listening to this before the markets open on Monday or after, we just don't know what the marketplace will do with a bullish cattle on feed report and all those record high futures board and cash prices seen this past week as well. Again, it's been a wild ride over the past few months, and it's been tough with drought. We know that. And throw on this winter we're having here in Montana where I call home. It's nice to see some good prices, especially going through our local livestock markets, and let's do that right now. Again, we have Ogallala Livestock here this week, over 6,200 head of feeder cattle sold, and we did see the trade $2 to $12 higher, particularly the 5.5 to 650 weight steers and over 800-pound steers saw a slight decline of $2 to $9 softer. Again, that was really before all the excitement was seen on the futures and cash market. Heifers were, though, mostly $3 to $20 higher, with some stronger demand noted for high-quality NHTC replacement heifers. As you can see on the screen, if you're watching today's podcast, the 5 to 5.5 weight steers, $3.77 to $3.82. The 6 to 650 weight steers, $3.19 up to $3.55. Heifers, strong demand, strong prices there in Ogallala. 4.5 to 5 weights, $3.20 to $3.90. 5.5 to 600 pound steers, $3.14 to $3.51. 6.5 to 700 pound steers, $2.68 to $3.20. And I mention it on my radio and TV reports and sometimes here on the podcast, but growing up, the first time I ever heard the term Ogallala was definitely watching Lonesome Dove, and Gus, of course, honed in on going to see his lady friend there in Nebraska. So just when I talk about Ogallala Livestock, I just always think of Lonesome Dove. Hey, this was from a few weeks ago, so yes, I am late to the party. This is not markets that ended on January 24th, but I definitely shared these prices on our Western Ag Network radio programs. But our friends at Superior Livestock Auction, they hosted their bell ringer sale. Over 100,000 head of cattle sold. But the lots that really stuck out to me out of Nevada, that awesome operation, the Wine Cup Gamble Ranch. If you're on Instagram, you've probably already seen these prices. The Superior crew did a great job sharing this in reels. They had 350 wean steer calves at 310 pounds. They're NHTC, Superior verified. They are programmed out. They brought a price of $5.53. That's right. 310 weight steers weaned at that weight, bringing $5.53. Now, the Wine Cup Gamble also had the heifer mates coming in at 300 pounds, same program criteria. They brought $4.66 a pound, again for 300 weight weaned heifers. They also had some nice 420 weight weaned steers, bringing a price of $4.80. Again, that was earlier in the month. These cattle have already been delivered. That was on the bell ringer sale. Again, those light weaned calves from the Wine Cup Gamble Ranch there in Nevada. Again, these prices are impressive, but you know what? One thing about it, beef demand continues to stay up, and that is the blessing with all this, as we are seeing that the price of our cattle go up, the price of beef in the grocery store is going up along that. We can't control that for the most part. We know that, but beef demand continues to hold up because consumers want high-quality protein, that being beef. All right, now back to more recent markets from that early bell ringer sale. Let's head to La Junta, Colorado, La Junta Livestock Auction. Just over 1,500 head, mostly feeder cattle, sold, feeder cattle under 650 pounds, saw a sharp decline earlier in the week, while those over 650 pounds increased by some $2 to $7. Those lighter 5.5 to 6 weight steers, $2.93 to $3.27, jumping up there a bit, $6.50 to $7.50, bringing $2.61 to $2.87. Heifers weighing 5.5 to 650 pounds brought $2.50 to $2.63. Heavier weight, $6.50 to $7.50 weights, $2.56 to $2.58. Now, as we look to Miles City Livestock Commission there in Miles City, Montana, I believe that's also where Gus got his leg cut off there in Lonesome Dove. In fact, I know that's right. Been to a few too many Miles City Bucking Horse sales in my youth. Been a few years since I've been there and hungover. If you've not been to Bucking Horse Sale, here's an unsolicited commercial for the Miles City Bucking Horse Sale, third weekend of May there in eastern Montana. Well, they just had over 1,500 head sell there. Bart and the crew, of course, steers under 550 pounds, mostly $10 to $20 lower. Again, this was earlier in the week before these markets really firmed up. But anything over 550 pounds, buyers really wanted those heavier weight calves. Things were steady. Heifers also steady, except for the 6 to 6.5 weights, which were about $4 to $8 higher. Are guys looking for replacement quality heifers at this point? Maybe. We still got a summer to get through. I have no bets on if herd rebuilding is going to be taking place because, yes, we're having a rough winter. I think we could have another tough summer here, depending on when the moisture cuts off. Slaughter cows as well were about $3 to $7 higher. Replacement cattle saw strong interest as well for those bred cows and heifers. For those listening, not being able to see, if you are listening to this, you can actually watch the podcast on all of our podcast platforms: Spotify, YouTube Music, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you enjoy your podcast. You can actually watch these too. You don't have to look at me. I'm the worst part about the podcast, but you can see the prices on the screen, or you can drive safely and listen to the audio as well. But enough of my ramble. Back to the feeder cattle there in Miles City. The 5.5 to 6 weight steers, $331 to $350. Heifers weighing 5 to 550 pounds, $312 to $335. Slaughter cows, $99 up to $139, depending on classification. Slaughter bulls, $110 to $152 a hundredweight. On to the bred cattle now. 2 to 4 year old cows brought $2,500 up to $28 3/4. 5 to 8 year old bred cows, $22.50 up to $28.25, and older 8-year-old level cows, $18.50 up to $24.25. Bred heifers seeing $2,750 up to $3,100. As for stock cows, they were seeing prices anywhere from $1.26 up to $2.21. We're staying in Montana. Billings Livestock Commission, just under 2,000 head sold. Demand was strong and prices were steady to higher for those feeder cattle going through the ring at BLS. 5 to 5.5 weights, $337 up to $3.79. 6 to 6.5 weights, $294 to $330. While heifers weighing 4.5 to 500 pounds, $312 to $377. 5.5 to 6 weights, $294 to $322. 6 to 6.5 weights, $259 to $3. And we're going to stay in Montana, wrapping up the report there. Southwest Montana Dillon Livestock Auction, just under 1,000 head selling. Prices generally higher across most weight ranges, with strong demand for bred cows. 3 to 5 year old bred cows bringing $2,650 up to $3,175. 6 to 8 year old breds $1,900 to $2,856. Heifers seeing a price of $2,850 up to $3,100. Slaughter cows $126 up to $149, with heiferettes going for $137 to $195. All right, we're out of the Big Sky State. We're going to go to Stockman's Livestock Exchange in North Dakota. Demand was very strong with aggressive buyer activity across the board. 2,500 head plus selling, with the 5.5 to 6 weight steers, $329 to $369, 6.5 to 7 weights, $314 to $326, with the 5 to 5.5 weight heifers, $320 to $338, 5.5 to 6 weights, $310 to $322. Also, we're going to look here and wrap up with the two sales in Torrington, Wyoming, at Torrington Livestock Auction. Earlier in the week for their feeders special, over 3,700 head, just under 3,800 head, in fact, sold. Steer and heifer prices generally steady to $5 higher despite extreme cold and wind conditions. Again, that's another factor that so many of our local livestock markets has had to deal with here in January 2025 are these extreme weather events, and cattle are still coming through the ring. Prices holding up, especially there in Torrington. Let's look to the 5.5 to 6 weight steers, $335 up to $3.57. 6 to 6.5 weights, $324 to $340. 5.5 to 6-weight heifers, $3.08 to $3.15. 6.5, 7-weight heifers, $2.75 to $2.97. And then on Friday, mostly bred female selling, just over 1,600 heads selling. A lot of out-of-state buyers coming in. That has been noted there at Torrington for those bred cattle. 2 to 4-year-old stock cows coming in, going for $2.22 up to $2.25. Bred heifers, $28.50 up to $3,475, with bred cows 2 to 4 years old bringing $29.50 up to $3,275, with 5 to 8-year-olds bringing $2,600 to $2,700. Again, this is mostly just going to be a recap of these local livestock markets. No doubt we're going to have industry experts join us. I am nowhere near an industry expert. I just BS my way through these, sharing these important prices that are important to my family and your family when we're looking at especially the cow-calf end of things. But make sure and tune in every Monday or whenever this episode pops up. It's most likely going to be Mondays. But thanks for joining us on the LaneCast Ag Podcast Livestock Market Edition. And again, a big shout out to our friends at Sandhill Red Angus. Their production sale going to be held Sydney Livestock in Sydney, Montana on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. 90 head of Red Angus bulls and 75 head of bred red heifers and 75 head of pairs as well. Check them out online, sandhillredangus.com, or their Facebook page as well. So I invite you all to subscribe to the LaneCast Ag Podcast. Throughout the week, we will have, of course, this Livestock Market Edition. We'll have a shorter news brief during midweek discussing some of the top headlines impacting U.S. agriculture. And then, of course, we always will have our long format deep dives highlighting the top issues or showcasing outstanding farmers and ranchers or industry stakeholders that are doing an outstanding job for us in the countryside that are of course, we're just trying to make a go of it in the countryside. So, and I appreciate you taking time joining us here on the LaneCast Ag Podcast. I'm Lane Northland. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the LaneCast with Talkin' Ag, Lane Nordland. Don't forget to subscribe to the LaneCast on your Apple or Android devices. We look forward to joining you next time on the LaneCast.